Good morning. How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday. Finally made it here to the weekend, 8:56 a.m. California time. Got a little squeak in my voice here, so I'll try to get through this as quick as I can. February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day out there to the lovers out there. What do we got for the latest activity? 1.7 there across the Alaska area. Also some movement here across the Izu Trench. A 4.8 earthquake coming in, fairly shallow. Let's go ahead and check out California first, where yesterday, bunch of earthquake activity ramping up out here across the Hayward Fault. Following that movement, just a short time later, a 4.4 earthquake hit further down the plate boundary near Coalinga. Now let's go ahead and check. I got to use a different map here. For whatever reason, the USGS is having some type of map issue. When you zoom in, it pretty much completely removes the imagery, so I have to use the ocean view. That's the only two options they have here. They don't have the satellite view or the other map that they used to use. So don't know what's going on. Maybe some type of updated map imagery. Hopefully it comes back. So we'll just use this view. That way we can see the land and also the fault systems out here. And here's the Hayward Fault. This earthquake activity from yesterday. A number of three-pointers coming into this region, with the highest magnitude of 3.6. One more last night, a little 1.9 it looks like, but that's a sequence of events there on a fault system you do not want to see. In between this mix here, there was an earthquake further up north along the Hayward Fault for a 2.4. So very active conditions there across the Hayward Fault, and that's a very dangerous fault system there in the East Bay. Got the potential to produce a large earthquake. In fact, there's a 72% chance of a magnitude 6.7 or greater in that area before 2045. Now, it's a ways out there, but got to remember the last big earthquake on the Hayward Fault was 1868, and the regular occurrence interval is 140 years. So we're well past that time frame. There's also a chance there when you relate all these potential links here between the Hayward Fault and the Rogers Creek Fault up north here. They got the potential to rupture at the same time, and we could see earthquake magnitudes up in the mid-7 range if they decide to go together. There's a 20% chance of that happening, of a greater 7.5 when you consider those certain fault systems going all together. There's also a 4% chance of greater than an 8.0 earthquake when all the mapped faults in the region are taken into account. So got the potential there to see a lot of large activity. And remember, a lot of these fault systems are well overdue. So it's possible we could see a rupture of all of them at once. And that would not be good, because then you get into the larger quakes. So far as today in the San Francisco Bay Area, I don't see anything as of yet, but still got to keep an eye on that region. Here's a movement down south, 4.3, originally a 4.4 earthquake outside of Avenal. That's not associated with the Hayward Fault or the San Andreas Fault. There's a little fault system that runs here along the west side of the San Joaquin Valley. Looks like that's where that earthquake struck, but it was overall elevated pattern out here yesterday of seismic events. And if you account for the last couple days, we've seen a lot of earthquake movement up north. We got to pull the 2.5 map up and above. Up here across the northern end of the San Andreas Fault, the Mendocino Fault Zone, we had a swarm of earthquake activity down here across the San Andreas Fault as well, directly on the San Andreas Fault. So the entire west coast out here, California-wise, has been elevated in terms of earthquake sequences out here. So that's the time to be prepared when they start moving out here, as we have seen here in the last couple days. It's been quite elevated. No big earthquake activity. The largest is going to be this 4.4 or 4.3 outside of Avenal. And today, looks like there's a little bit of aftershock sequences there. At least one. 1.5 there, 8 o'clock this morning, 8:34 a.m. So continue to keep an eye here on California. Further down south along the San Andreas Fault, just a handful of very small microquakes. Nothing rocking down there today yet, but remember these wave patterns tend to take a little break and then they'll kick back up. The rest of the states out here, one earthquake last night in the Victoria, Canada area. I believe, well, that's 25 miles deep there. Could be associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. It's underneath this area, not associated with any surface fracturing. Aside from that, the rest of the country out here got some earthquake activity out around Idaho. Nothing going on through Yellowstone there. Man, I don't know what's going on with their maps, but they need to fix it. Because these are all over the place. It doesn't look good. Hopefully they fix this. Let's go check out the Yellowstone overview real quick, see if we got any quake activity there. I don't see anything. It looks pretty quiet out there in terms of earthquake activity. No volcanic activity either. The rest of the states, just some oil fields getting hit with earthquakes out there. Nothing major across the New Madrid seismic zone. One little earthquake out in Tennessee from yesterday, but overall, most of the activity today has looks like it shifted down south a little bit here across the Middle America Trench. Quite a bit of swarming going on there in that area. Up in Alaska, 5.8 earthquake last night. That earthquake was just prior or during the sequence of events that took place there in the Hayward Fault, on the Hayward Fault. So things were adjusting accordingly out here, putting the strain out in certain areas, which were affecting many fault systems that are well strained and overdue for big earthquake activity. We've seen it. We had it. We saw it. Whatever past tense word you want to use. It was kicking up yesterday, and I think we still got a greater chance of seeing some larger scale activity here near term. There's that 5.8, nothing else following that earthquake up here, aside from a couple 2s and 3s across the subduction zone. Big time clustering going on here across the Indonesia Islands area from yesterday and today. Bunch of 5s today kicking up there. We look at the earthquake 3D model. There it is. A lot of movement there across the Philippines area. Look at that clustering going on into the Philippine Trench. Latest at 3.3 in there. Looks like something's about ready to pop in that region. That's going to be roughly about here. 5.3 and the 4.9 USGS is showing there on the map. But as you can see, there's a lot more earthquake activity stirring up in that region. So keep your eyes open there around the Philippines. Not a whole lot here across New Zealand. Far as the Santorini area, got continued earthquake swarm going on there across that area. Let's go ahead and see what we have here today. It just never fails. Today's been, I just got a sickness out of the blue. Well, one kid came home from school sick a couple days ago, so, you know, living in the same household, it's bound to happen. I can't avoid the kids, but so yeah, I'm sick once again here, and it's affecting my voice. So please excuse the squeakiness here in my voice. So one earthquake here. Well, actually none reported today in the Aegean Sea area in terms. Look at these maps. They look not cool. I have to pull this up to have even somewhat of a decent reading, but there's the Santorini area. Let's go ahead and check out the map here of the area. Refresh that. Make sure we got the latest data here. 1,416 earthquakes in the last week. Still got a number of those from, let's see here. These are from today. 3.6, 3.2. So the last one is 3.6 here at 1631, right in the mix of the activity. Still getting some southward migration here. Look at that 4.5 a little bit further south. 10 kilometers deep. So that's what I'm talking about. Got to watch this southward migration. It's been going off and on. It's been building mainly here in this earthquake swarm as far as I believe magma intrusion goes, but also at the same time the same time, it looks like it wants to take a southward migration here towards the Santorini area. And we got to watch that because that could be bad news there for those folks. Let's check out the seismograph station there of that area. A lot less active. I mean, we can actually see the seismograph station lines here today, but there's still a number of threes in there. No fours to report. But the sequence of events are still there. They have not let off. They've decreased in the multitudes slightly and the magnitudes, but it's still consistent. There's still, earthquakes happening almost every few minutes or so with periodic threes. No fours yet. But we got to watch it, folks, because that's not over yet. All right, see if nothing being reported here today from the Volcano Discovery website. So no new information in terms of the Colombo or the Santorini volcano area, Etna, all these other ones that are always underneath periodic eruptions are in the news today. But it's common. They're around the Santorini volcano, not so common. That's why we cover it. We had volcano activity around Mount St. Helens, not so common. That's why I would be covering it. These typical volcanoes that are always in sequence of eruption events, try not to cover them all the time. Just like Hawaii, almost always in eruption stage out here. I think they're entering into their 10th eruption phase here of an off and on pattern. Let's go over here and we'll just check it real quick there across Kilauea Volcano, where the update was put out yesterday. I believe we're at a pause. Episode 9 of the eruption ended on the 12th. So deformation data here is going to show us that we should be going up. There's the pause coming back down from deflation. This is the inflation chart. Notice we're going back up. Just a rinse and repeat cycle here that we've seen and saw here in the past month. Seesaw. Take a couple days here to build up enough volume of magma underneath the region to see some more fountaining going on there across Kilauea Volcano. Nothing changing there. A couple earthquakes out offshore, it looks like, but nothing unusual right now. Let's take a look here at the rest of the model. Just a bunch of activity here across this region. Watch the Philippines there. It does look like things want to pop there across that region. The Nankai Trough still hasn't had any significant release in pressure. That's a subduction zone there across Japan. Got the strain being applied on it. Middle America Trench quite active over here as well. It's a major subduction zone. 4.4 the latest earthquake there, so we'll keep an eye on that. That area not really showing up too much here on the map, but whenever things really ramp up here across the Middle America Trench, it puts a strain here on this little bitty Caribbean plate where we saw the 7.6 here a few days ago. Might want to keep an eye on this region for some further activity with all this elevated movement there on the Middle America Trench. South Sandwich Trench down here, way south. A little bit of activity. It's a movement from yesterday and today. The Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet here for now, folks. Space weather activity. Well, I wish I could say we're looking at some major roars in the forecast, but that's not the case. In fact, we've only had just some upper sea flare activity here recently from a couple unorganized sunspots. Really not looking at anything major or drastic out here in terms of complexity amongst all these regions. It looks pretty quiet out here. A couple newer areas out on the eastern limb, but really not even all that impressed with those for now. So we're just kind of entering into a little quiet period. 5% chance for X flare, 40% for M flare activity. And again, the way things are, no major roars in the forecast. A little bit of unsettled conditions right now. KP index up around the 4.5 range. but that's mainly due to the high-speed solar wind stream from coronal hole number 14, which is now much further off over here on the western limb. Quick glance at the next close approach asteroids here in near term. At least in the next couple days, pretty safe out there, millions of miles away for a lot of these recently discovered asteroids here. There's thousands upon thousands of asteroids and rocks there that are always around the planet. But good thing we got people keeping an eye out for them, hopefully. All right, nothing major going on for severe weather today. Tomorrow, yeah, big time risk down here across the south. Got some tornado potential again, 10% chance of seeing up to an EF5 tornado there across the jungle. The very heavily wooded areas of the south down there. So just a heads up, wind. There's a lot of wood in the forecast. A lot of wind in the forecast there across the south from those storms. And even a little bit of hail threat as well tomorrow. So just a heads up, that's for the weekend. As we put the weather model here into motion, there's that big storm system there that dropped just over an inch of rain here in Northern California, my area anyway, much more across the mountains and the coast range, but that is scooting out. Looks like that's going to be interfering out there in the south. Low pressure system rapidly getting caught up in the jet stream, producing that severe weather tomorrow. And for the weekend there, further across the East Coast, California is going to dry out a little bit, looks like, but we got some cold air coming behind, east of the Rockies. Look at those tight lines here indicating a lot of pressure differences. Cold air and snow may be returning to the southern plains. Either way, well below normal for this time of year for those folks. Little system coming in here for California next week, it looks like. But, man, I'm not seeing any further big storm systems out there for California. It's just a very similar pattern to January, where we had high pressure out in the west, jet stream going way up north into Canada and bringing the cold air down. It looks like a very similar pattern. So hopefully you guys like the cold air out here across this area of the country, because it's sticking around for a little bit. Goodness, man. It kicked up overnight. I picked up a little cough last night, it seemed like. And then this morning I could really feel it. So, I've been stocking up here on vitamin C, been trying to eat healthy the best I can, drink, nutrient-rich items. But when a household's sick, it's bound to happen, unless I have my own oxygen mask and just kind of walking around the house with that. It's going to happen, unfortunately. Can't really open up all the windows and let some fresh air in because just the coolness. Kids got to stay somewhat warm as well. So here I am, just another sick day in the winter. I'll be glad when this is all over. All right, let's see here. I think that's about it, folks. Got kind of a busy day today. Still earthquake activity in China Lake. That's down there across Ridgecrest. Couple small quakes. One in New Zealand as well. Let's see what we got down there across New Zealand. Looks like a 4.0 coming in to the, looks like southern end of the Hikurangi subduction zone. That's somewhat of a deeper quake as well. 67 kilometers deep here, right down. It looks like it's going to be right around here, but that's the Hikurangi subduction zone. So any deep activity in this region is going to be building up further strain out there. Seems like a lot of the subduction zones are getting hit today. Philippine Trench, Middle America Trench, South Sandwich Trench down here. So just be on guard, folks. California, still got to watch out. There's some of that smaller earthquake activity kicking up. It looks like there's a little swarm in there. Some of that activity is showing up on that station there across China Lake. But just be on guard, folks. I'm leaving up the earthquake watch here for now on the live stream because of all the elevated seismic events here in the last couple days here. When things stay elevated, there's a greater chance of seeing a much larger earthquake take place. So just be prepared. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe.